Roland walked slowly through the crowded station corridor. His boots were old, his jacket thin, and his face tired. People passed him without a glance. The station lights flickered, and the air smelled like oil and smoke. He had 1 credit left. In his pocket, just one, enough for a cheap meal or a blanket, but not both. He had not eaten properly in 2 days, but something told him to save the credit a little longer. The outer docks of Station K7 were always cold. The heating systems there had been broken for months. No one cared enough to fix them. Roland liked the quiet there, even though it made his bones ache. He often went there just to sit, think, or stare at the stars through the dirty glass windows. Tonight, something was different. He heard a soft noise like a whimper, almost too quiet. He stopped and turned his head in the corner, near the trash units. He saw a shape. It was small and curled up. Not moving at first, he thought it was a pile of old blankets. But then he saw a hand, blue and shaking. He stepped closer. Carefully, the figure was a woman, but not human. Her skin was light blue, almost silver in the station light. She had long white hair. Roland knelt beside her. He touched her shoulder gently. Her eyes opened slowly, strange. Glowing eyes, like starlight. She tried to speak, but only a whisper came out. He didn't understand the words. But he felt her fear, her pain. Then her eyes closed again. He looked down at his hand, the credit chip pressed between his fingers. He could walk away, pretend he saw nothing. He could buy food and forget this moment. But something deep inside him would not let him leave. He stood up and walked to the nearest supply unit. Blanket, 1 credit, the machine said. He pressed the chip, and the last of his money vanished. A thin thermal blanket dropped into the tray. He took it and returned to the alien woman carefully. He wrapped her in the blanket. Her body was ice cold, but he hoped the heat would help. As he tucked the blanket around her, her eyes opened again. This time, she looked at him clearly. She raised a hand slowly and touched his face. Her fingers were weak, but warm light flowed. From them, Roland gasped. The pain in his old knee was gone. She whispered again, a soft word in a language he did not know. Then she smiled faintly, and her eyes closed once more. Her breathing slowed, steady now. He stayed there beside her, unsure what to do. Time passed, and the hallway grew darker and colder. Eventually, he looked up and saw no one around. He thought of calling for help, but who would care? Aliens were not safe on this station, especially ones without ID. If he called security, she might vanish forever, so he did the only thing he could. He picked her up in his arms. She was light, almost too light. He carried her to his small room, hidden deep in the lower decks. There. He placed her on his sleeping pad and wrapped the blanket tighter. He sat beside her, watching, waiting. His room was cold too, but somehow, the air felt warmer now. His back hurt less, and his chest felt light. Sleep pulled at his eyes, and soon he drifted off when he woke up the next morning. The room was quiet. He sat up quickly. She was gone. The blanket was folded neatly at the foot of the bed. His room was cleaner than before. Something smelled like flowers in the air. Roland stood and looked around, confused. Had it been a dream? No, he touched his knee again. No pain. He looked at the corner where she had rested. There was a small symbol drawn on the wall, glowing faintly, like a promise or a message. He didn't know what it meant, but he knew one thing. His life had changed, and the freezing stranger he had saved was not ordinary. Felt it in his bones. This was just the beginning. Roland stood near the wall. Staring at the glowing mark the woman had left behind, he touched it gently, but it felt cold. Like metal, it pulsed once, then faded. The symbol was gone. Just like her, he sighed and rubbed his eyes. Maybe it was all a dream. Maybe his tired mind had imagined everything. But deep down, he knew it was real. The day passed slowly, Roland returned to work scraping rust from old pipes in Sector 12. No one talked to him, and he liked it that way. But all day he kept thinking about her. Who was she? Why did her touch heal him? Where did she go? That night, when he returned to his room, he opened the door and froze. Someone was sitting on his bed. The blanket was around her shoulders. Glowing softly, it was her, the alien woman. She looked stronger now, her eyes alert and sharp, still glowing. But with calm instead of fear. Her hair was brushed, her face cleaned. She looked like a soldier or maybe a queen. "You're awake," Roland said, unsure what else to say. She tilted her head and spoke. Her voice was soft but clear. "You gave me warmth when I had nothing," she said. "I returned to offer the same." Roland blinked, surprised she spoke his language. "How do you know English?" She pointed at the wall where the symbol had been. "I listened while you slept," she said. "Your thoughts speak louder than words." Roland didn't understand, but somehow felt she was telling the truth. He sat down on the chair across. "From her, you're not normal, are you?" She smiled, but it was a sad smile. "I was made to be a weapon," she said. "But I escaped before I learned to kill." Silence filled the room. Only the hum of the station could be heard. He looked at her hands, smooth, glowing faintly, not human, but not machine either. She looked alive and tired and safe. "I'm Roland," he said. She nodded. "I am called Kira." She looked around his small room. It had nothing special, just a bed, a chair, a broken screen. But she didn't seem to mind. "This space is small," she said, "but peaceful. I will stay if you allow it." Roland wasn't sure. Having her here could bring trouble, but when she smiled again, the warmth in the room grew stronger. His headache vanished. His old shoulder pain faded. Even the flickering light above them began to shine brighter. "You're doing this," he said, looking up. She nodded. "I share heat, light, and calm. To those who show kindness, but I must hide. Many seek me. Who are they?" Roland asked. "Bounty hunters," she said. "Machines without hearts, sent to bring me back." Roland stood and began locking the door. His heart pounded. He had nothing to offer, no weapons. No allies, no plan, but he couldn't throw her out. "Not after what she gave him. You can stay," he said. "But you'll have to teach me how to keep you safe." Kira stood and touched his arm. "You already know how," she whispered. "Kindness is stronger than weapons." That night, Roland slept deeper than he had in years. His dreams were filled with light, stars, and soft music. When he awoke, Kira was sitting on the floor, drawing shapes in the air. They glowed, then vanished. She looked up and said, "Something is coming. They know I am here." Roland felt a cold wave in his chest. "What do we do?" Kira stood and picked up the blanket, wrapping it around herself like a cloak. "We prepare," she said, "and we stay together, outside, deep in the station corridors." Silent footsteps moved. A scanner beeped faintly. Detecting traces of alien energy, the hunters had arrived. But they did not know what kind of man they were about to face. A man who had given his last credit. It's not for food, not for comfort, but for a stranger. A man whose kindness had just started a new kind of war. The station was quiet, too quiet. Even the machines seemed to whisper instead of hum. Roland felt it the moment he woke up. The air was heavier, like it knew something was coming. Kira stood near the window. Eyes closed. She wasn't breathing, at least not like a human. She was still. Like a statue made of light and glass. Her hands moved slowly through the air, drawing symbols only she could see. Roland sat up on the bed, rubbing his face. "You're doing that dream thing again," he said. She didn't open her eyes, but she nodded. I am listening, she said to the station, to its memory. The station has memory? Roland asked. Kira turned toward him, her eyes now open. Everything leaves a trace. She said, sound, heat, energy, emotion. It whispers if you know how to listen. Roland stood and stretched. But something pulled his attention. A soft ping. Came from the old data terminal in the corner. It hadn't worked in years. He walked over slowly. The screen glowed weakly, showing a line of strange symbols. Did you do this? He asked Kira. She shook her head. That is not mine, she said. Walking closer, she looked at the symbols, and her face grew pale. They found me. Who? Roland asked, already knowing the answer. Bounty systems, she said. This is a ghost. Signal it rides old machines, looking for my code. Roland typed a few keys. The screen flickered. More lines appeared, this time in English. Target code. Identified hunters en route transmission. Legage. Roland cursed under his breath. They know you're here, he said. Kira nodded, but her voice remained calm. They don't know I'm not alone. He looked at her, surprised. You think I can stop them? You're human, she said. That makes you unpredictable. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. The hum of the hallway outside changed pitch, barely noticeable. But Roland had worked here long enough to know. Something just entered the stations. Outer ring, he grabbed his old bag and began tossing tools inside. I know a place, he said, not far from the waste sector, under the water tanks. Nobody goes there anymore. Kira followed without question. She moved silently, her feet barely, touching the ground together. They slipped through the maintenance tunnels. Each step echoed like a heartbeat in a coffin as they reached the lower levels. Roland's terminal buzzed again. He pulled it from his coat and checked the screen. A new message blinked, but it wasn't. From the Bounty Network, it was from Jox, an old friend from his engineering days. Rebels coming your way, Ro? The message read, you hiding someone valuable? You better run before they scan your floor. Kira looked at the screen, and then at Roland. Can we trust him? She asked. Roland sighed. He's greedy, but not heartless. If he knows they're scanning my floor, he's trying to warn me. Then, the tunnel lights flickered. A low thump echoed through the pipes above them. Like a heavy boot dropping from the ceiling, Kira stopped moving, her eyes glowing brighter. They're here. She whispered. 3 of them, not machines, but not fully alive either. Roland's heart pounded. He knew the bounty systems used hybrid hunters, half metal, half flesh, no soul, no mercy, just cold, perfect tracking machines. He opened the hidden door behind the tank and pulled Kira inside. They entered a narrow chamber filled with rust and water leaks. Roland sealed the door and turned on a small energy field, something he built years ago to hide old equipment. Now, it had a new purpose, to hide life signals. They sat in silence, listening through the metal walls. Roland heard the hunters pass by. Their footsteps were slow, deliberate. One of them stopped, turned, and sniffed the air like a wolf. Kira touched Roland's arm. Stay still, she whispered. Her body grew cold. Her glow vanished. Roland did the same, holding his breath. The footsteps moved on, fading into the distance. Only then did he exhale. Kira looked at him and said, This was only a scan team. The real hunters will come next. Roland nodded, his mind racing. We need help. He said, We need someone who knows the station better than I do. Kira's eyes lit up again. You know such a person? Roland hesitated, then said, Yeah, that. But he's the last person I ever wanted to see again. Asterisk, the hidden room smelled of rust, steam, and old secrets. Water dripped slowly from the ceiling, each drop echoing in the dark. Roland sat on a broken crate, staring at the damp floor. His thoughts spun like old fans, loud and useless. Kira stood still near the corner, eyes closed again. Her body glowed faintly, like hot metal cooling down. She was listening to memories, to air, maybe even to him. You're holding something back, Roland said, breaking the silence. You said you were made for war. But you didn't say what kind of war. Kira opened her eyes and they shimmered with heat. Not light, A war of minds, she said. Not just weapons, not just fire. My creators built me to control machines, to rewrite energy, to destroy silently, but I broke before they finished. Broke how? Roland asked. Kira looked away, her voice softer now. I felt pain, and then I felt someone else's pain. She sat beside him, and the air grew warmer one day. A child screamed as my kind tore through her colony. I was linked to the attackers. I saw through their eyes, but I couldn't move. I just felt her fear. Her pain, her last breath. Roland swallowed hard. And that changed you? Pain wakes things up, she said. It woke something human in me. He didn't know what to say. The silence between them wasn't cold anymore. It was thick, like fire held in a box. He looked at her, really looked. She wasn't just a machine or a refugee. She was something rare. Something alive in a way most people weren't. Outside the chamber, metal creaked. The station's voice whispered through the pipes. Roland stood up and pulled out his old comlink. He stared at the screen for a long time before pressing the call button. The face that appeared made his stomach twist. Dark skin, metal jaw, one eye glowing red. Jox. The man who once saved Roland's life and then almost got him killed. Oh, well, Jox said, grinning. The ghost calls back. I need your help, Roland said.
Oh, well, wait.
Gox raised an eyebrow then. Betrayal. I've got something people are dying to find, Roland said. And if I die first, they'll get it from my body. Jox leaned forward, interested now. You mean the blue fire girl they're hunting? You know? Roland asked, shocked. Everybody knows, Jox said. They've locked down half the East Wing. Someone torched a scanner drone using her power. Now the bounty price is double. Roland stayed silent. Kira stepped into the view of the screen, her eyes glowing again. Jox's grin vanished, replaced by something close to fear. You really have her, he whispered. You want credits, or do you want to even the score? Roland asked. You owe me, Jox. Jox didn't answer right away. Then he leaned back, cracked his neck and said, I'm in. But you're going to regret trusting me again. Roland ended the call and turned to Kira. He's dangerous, he said. But he knows the station better than anyone, Kira nodded. Then let's give danger a taste of itself. Later that night, Jox arrived in the shadows, covered in a thermal cloak. He scanned the room and said, You brought a live energy weapon into my station. Not smart. Kira stepped forward, calm and tall. Not a weapon anymore, she said. I'm the fire that chooses its own path. Jox looked at Roland, then back at her. I like her, he said. She talks like a myth. Let's make sure she lives long enough to become one. Roland grabbed his tools. Then let's move, he said. Because the real hunters are not scanning anymore. They're killing. Kira looked at both men. And for the first time, her glow turned red. Not angry red. It's not violent. But the deep, steady color of hidden fire ready to rise. The plan was simple. Meet Jox in the central waste hub. Use his clearance codes to pass into the blocked sectors. Find a hidden exit route through the ventilation maze. Disappear before the hunters could track Kira's signal again. But simple. Never meant safe. Roland tightened the straps on his backpack. Inside were Kira's sketches, symbols, maps, energy shapes he couldn't understand. He didn't know why she had drawn them, but she said they mattered. Said they were memories wrapped in energy. He trusted her more than anyone he'd ever met. Kira stood beside him, wrapped in a borrowed cloak. Her glow was low, dim to avoid detection. But her presence still warmed the air. Even in danger, she never felt cold. Jox met them near the waste gates, typing on his wristband. Sector D12 will shut down in exactly 4 minutes, he said. That's your window. Roland glanced around the grimy tunnel. It smelled like burning rubber and old secrets. You're sure we won't trip the alarms? Jox laughed, a dry, short sound. Not unless someone opens their mouth or does anything dumb. Kira nodded silently. She didn't trust Jox, not fully. But she could sense things Roland could not. His circuits are clean, but his heartbeat lies. She whispered to Roland. Too late. Jock suddenly stepped back and raised his wrist. A signal pulse shot from his device. The walls lit up red. Sirens echoed through the pipes. Steel doors slammed down, sealing the path behind them. You sold us. Roland shouted. Not sold, Jock said, stepping into the shadows. Traded. Two tall figures dropped from the ceiling, their bodies humming, not fully machines, not fully alive. Their faces were metal plates. No eyes, only scanners. Bounty class. Alpha hunters, fast, silent, perfect. Kira stepped forward, her eyes flaring bright blue. But the hunters moved faster. One fired a bolt of energy. Hitting her square in the chest, she fell to the ground. Light flickering around her body, Roland ran toward her, but the second hunter grabbed him. Metal hands crushed his ribs like paper. He screamed, the world spinning. She's not supposed to. Fight back, Jock said, watching from above. She's supposed to shut down and behave. Kira coughed, sparks falling from her lips. But she looked up, and in her pain she smiled. I remember you, she whispered to Jox. You were the one who cried? When your arm was taken, Jox froze, the smile gone from his face. You were there? You begged them to stop, Kira said, her voice barely audible, and I listened. A burst of red light erupted from her skin, throwing one hunter back. But the other injected a pulse suppressor into her neck. She went limp, her glow fading too. Gray Roland hit the floor, bleeding and shaking. He reached out to her. Her fingers touched his, weakly don't. Follow, she said. Wait for fire. The hunters dragged her away. Metal claws clinking against the floor. Jox disappeared into the steam, his face unreadable. And then, silence. Roland lay alone in the dark. Broken ribs, broken spirit, but not broken. Hours passed, maybe days. He patched his wounds. One at a time, his breath burned, his eyes heavy, but in his chest. Something had changed. She was gone, but her warmth remained. Not in the air, in him. Roland stood, slowly, painfully. He picked up a fallen hunter's chip, blinking blue, still pulsing, still alive, and in the distance, in the back of his mind, he heard her, a whisper, a word, a plan. The fire wasn't dead. It was waiting. Asterisk, the broken station flickered like a dying star. Sector D12 had been sealed off for 2 days. No one asked questions. People heard screams. Saw flashes of red light through vents. Then nothing. Roland had vanished. Or so they thought. But beneath the station, where waste met forgotten metal, he was alive, barely breathing, ribs wrapped in melted cloth. Bones hurt, vision blurred, but his mind was sharp, sharper than it had been in years. He sat inside an abandoned repair pod, the floor lit by a single cracked screen. On it, a looping memory, Kira's last whisper recorded through his wristband, wait for fire. She didn't. Mean a rescue, she meant him. Around him lay the tools of the past old mining bots, cracked power cells, rusted cutters. Things no bounty hunter would care about, but Roland knew them. He had built half this junk with his own hands years ago. Now he was going to turn it into something new. Not pretty, not perfect, but deadly. He pulled a drill unit from the wall and rewired its targeting sensor, connected it to the motion scanner from an old food locker, welded a battery to a fire extinguisher, and wrapped the whole thing in wire. Let's see if machines like surprises, he muttered. He built 3 traps in 6 hours, used a cracked holopad to map out the sectors under grid, every pipe, every hatch, every forgotten path. He knew where they kept her deep in the old science block, now turned into a black site. Kira's energy was too dangerous to hold anywhere public. They needed thick walls, heavy locks, and silence. But silence worked both ways. At midnight cycle, Roland moved. He crawled through an exhaust pipe, dragging his gear behind him. His hands shook, not from fear, but from fire.
Out.
But burning slow, focused at the first door. He placed a bait box one of his traps. It lit up when the hunter approached, scanned the metal, and boom. The hallway filled with smoke and sparks. Roland slipped past the chaos. Behind him, A hunter's. Voice crackled. Unknown signal manual breach detected. Too slow. He found the power grid. Opened a rusted panel. Pulled the breakers one by one. Lights across the block dimmed. Security systems dropped into emergency mode. Just like he planned, he reached the cell wing, hid behind a pipe as two hunters passed. They didn't see him. He was a shadow. He was nothing, exactly what they expected him to be. But when he opened her cell, everything changed. Kira was suspended in the air, metal bands around her limbs. Energy fields kept her glow trapped, but her eyes were open. And when she saw him, they burned red again. "You came," she whispered. "Always," Roland said. Reaching for the control pad. "Don't," she warned. "That's a feedback lock. You'll get fried."
No.
He hesitated, then smiled. "Then it's a good thing. I'm already half broken." He slammed the release. And lightning surged through his body. He screamed but didn't stop. The circuits popped, the field flickered, and the restraints shattered. Kira fell into his arms. Weak but alive, she touched his chest, her hand trembling. "You're on fire," she said. "Yeah," he breathed. "And it hurts like hell behind them." Alarms screamed louder. The hunters were coming. Roland pulled her toward the escape route he mapped out. But the floor shook. A massive mech dropped into the hallway ahead. Twice as tall as a man, its chest glowing with reactor light. Roland stepped forward, ready to fight, but Kira placed a hand on his arm. "Let me," she said. He nodded, stepping. Aside, her eyes blazed gold this time, not blue, not red, but pure, burning gold. She raised both hands and whispered one word. "Remember." The mech froze. Lights blinked wildly. Then its body cracked from the inside, metal melting, circuits bleeding. It dropped to its knees. Then collapsed into steam. Kira swayed, almost falling. Roland caught her. "We're not done yet," he said. "No," she replied, smiling faintly. "But next time we bring a bigger explosion." They vanished into the smoke. Hunters followed. But all they found were traps, noise, and silence. Roland and Kira were gone. Not free yet, but no longer hiding. Now they were hunting. They ran until the station no longer sounded like metal, until the alarms faded and the air felt still again. Roland collapsed behind an old cargo module, coughing, bleeding, but smiling. Kira knelt beside him, her fingers glowing faintly as she scanned his chest. "You cracked 2 ribs, and 1 lung is bruised," she whispered. "You're in pain." Roland nodded, breathing slowly. "Yeah, but I'm still here." Kira looked different now. Her glow wasn't just energy, it was full, balanced, alive. Like her power had finally returned, but softer, more human. They had escaped the black site, fried its gates, and left the hunters in confusion. But now, they had nowhere left to run. The station knew, the network knew, more would come. More machines, more fire. Roland looked up at the faded ceiling.
House.
It was cracked and peeling, with stars barely visible through the window glass. He remembered looking at the stars once as a boy, thinking they were silent and peaceful. Now he knew better. Stars burned. And so did everything that touched them. Kira sat beside him and spoke softly. "I can't keep running," she said. "If I leave now, they will hunt others like me. I have to end it." Roland turned to her, weak but clear. "How?" She looked at her hands that could melt steel, kill flesh, or stop a mech with a word. "I was made to control systems, not just fight them," she said. "I can overwrite the network that controls the bounty chain, but it'll cost me." "What do you mean?" "If I reach the core, I can spread a signal," she explained. "A living memory that teaches choice, not obedience, but it will drain all of me." Roland sat up, pain stabbing his side. "You mean die?" She didn't answer, but he knew. He saw it. In her silence, "No," he said. "You don't get to die alone. You gave me fire, Roland," she said. "You gave me a reason to stop running. This is my way to say thank you." He reached out and took her hand. It was warm, trembling, just like his. "What? If there's another way?" he asked. Kira smiled. "If there is, I can't see it, but maybe you can." He closed his eyes, thinking fast. Then it hit him. He still had the hunter chip, the one he ripped from a broken mech. It pulsed with its own language, not as strong. As Kira's "but enough," he handed it to her. "Can you piggyback your signal onto this?" Kira's eyes lit up with surprise. "Yes, but it will still drain a source." "Then use me," he said. Kira stared at him, shocked. "You'll die, maybe," he said. "Shh. But if it means stopping the hunt, giving others like you a chance to live free, then let it burn through me instead." Tears formed in her glowing eyes. "Not water, but tiny streaks of light, human warmth," she whispered. "It's always louder than logic." She placed both hands on his chest. Energy hummed around them, soft and deep. The signal began to grow. It flowed through the chip, into the system, into every wall, wire, and circuit across the station. Lights flickered, terminals glowed with unknown symbols. The bounty chain froze, rewrote, and for the first time in years, the machine stopped chasing. When it was done, Roland collapsed, barely breathing. Kira held him close, her body dimming with every heartbeat. But then, something strange. His chest pulsed, not fading, but stabilizing. He was alive. She had given back part of what she took. "Balance the burn? You didn't let go?" he whispered. "I didn't want to," she said, smiling weakly. "Turns out warmth can be shared." Later, they sat side by side on the highest ledge of the station. No alarms, no hunters, no fear, only stars. Only silence, only warmth. Kira leaned her head on his shoulder. "Spent your last credit on me," she said, "and now I have everything." Roland chuckled. "Funny," he said, "because now I finally feel rich.